How important is play? Welcome to Philosopher's Corner. I'm John. How important is play? Play is one of the most natural things that human beings do. Actually, really any animal does. Whether we're in nature or in the confines of the world of man, play is something that we all engage in. And we typically think about it in regards to our childhood because there are less requirements on our time as children, most of us. And so a lot of times we don't really examine it in a serious manner or a philosophical manner. But how important is play? It's a part of every culture. It's part of all the different animals, all the different people. So it's got to be pretty important. And I think it's pretty obvious that it is. Some people may say it's frivolous, I suppose. But when we look at it I like to look at play like a lot of activities when we're trying to figure out the worth of something in terms of human evolution or in terms of the role it plays in the development of beings in general, whether they're animals or humans. I like to look at it in terms of, okay, what's that activity contributing to the evolutionary aspect or the development aspect of the being, whether it's in that life or over successive generations of those beings in the species. And play is a universal phenomenon. You know, when we look at it in animals, when you see, cheetah cubs playing or animals playing, they're generally mimicking or they're doing a scaled down version of the animal behaviors that they're going to use to survive in the wild. And they'll play fight and they'll hide and seek and they'll do all sorts of things, and they'll play with each other. And then oftentimes the parents will oversee the play because obviously the parents are surviving in the wild. And so they probably through like emotional resonance, they can feel when the play is sort of in the right area for the skill sets that they're engaging in. And when you watch animals, like at some point when the play, as the cubs in this case, they grow up and they get bigger and the play gets a little rougher and the claws start to come in and the teeth start to get a little sharper, then they'll take them out and start letting them assist in the hunts and start showing them life skills, and they'll transition the play into life skills. And as far as humans go, it's very similar. Now obviously we're more sophisticated beings and we have a bunch of different skills that we need to develop in order to not just survive in the world, but humans have we have a great need for enjoyment and entertainment in the world, which other animals do, but humans, because of the nature of our powerful brains and intellects, they require a ton of stimulation and a ton of entertainment to satisfy, what we got going on upstairs. And so play for humans it's not just a development area in terms of finding out, getting coordinated, children figuring out how to get into the bodies, figuring out if you're good with your hands, if you're good with your feet, can you run, can you jump, can you do all those different things, which progresses. But with humans, it also then serves to socialize us because we start getting into games with each other with play, and we start to learn how to digest concepts in a free-form manner. Like part of, there's play, like for children, there's different levels of play. You have like preschool and elementary school where you have recess and you have a variety of sports, ball sports or jungle gyms or, jump rope or basketball or whatever, kids are playing these days. And then you also have groups of kids who, when it comes to play, they're not doing things that are necessarily athletic. They like to go and talk and socialize, and even, some kids like to entertain each other, and they start to develop these other skills during play, because play it's a free form time, or at least it's supposed to be a free form time. So that not only do you get a chance to find out who you are, find out what you like, but you get a chance to make mistakes. Like, it's perfectly acceptable to, fall off the monkey bars and, bruise yourself up, jump your bike off a ramp and, not stick the landing, break an arm, play baseball in the street and, break a neighbor's window, and you find out the moral consequences of damaging other people's property and taking responsibility. And then you find out that, pecking orders emerge. Oh, when you go to select teams, oh, okay, I want that person on my team. I want that person on my team. And then you start to see how all these different things, they start to interconnect, right? Like the reputations, they go, oh, well, that person's a good athlete, or that person's a good, they're funny, or I want to hang out with them. And where the freeform play allows people to start finding their talents and figuring out what's in their body, and start to develop a lot of the beginning developments of these life skills that are going to go with people throughout life. You also find out that other people are paying attention, and that reputations are born, and that really a whole social life is based on your abilities and your energies and how you're interacting with everyone, be it athletically, or, maybe people find out you're like good at being the referee, or you're good at being a captain, or getting people organized for games. I mean, one of the classic things, let's say in pickup basketball, is that it's a really good phenomenon, because in pickup basketball, groups of people just show up, and there's no referee, there's no organization, no nothing. And organically, people within the group need to rise up and organize the game. Okay, how many people are we playing with? Is this 3-on-3? Is this 5-on-5? Is this half court? Is this full court? What are the rules? Who's on what team? Da 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 da. And I've been on pickup courts where somebody doesn't step up, and I've seen where people will just mill around for 30 minutes and not even play an organized game if nobody steps up. I would have organized it, but I just wanted to see how long it would go. And then conversely, most of the time, somebody stands up really quick and gets the game going, and that's appreciated. And then the games keep going, and a consciousness sort of emerges in the game. And sometimes on the court, it's super nice, and most of the time it runs like a basketball game should, and it continues to go, and tempers are cool, and there's a level of personal refereeing that occurs that's acceptable to everybody. And sometimes, when some people are not cool, the courts can get very contentious, and all of the refereeing is improper, because it's all people calling their own fouls. So sometimes the refereeing gets out of whack, and tempers flare, and conflicts can arise, and the games can become very unenjoyable. But these are all aspects of play. Play allows us to let loose of the bonds of the normal day, whether it's, requirements to be somebody in a school or somebody at work, or even if you're bound by preconceptions of who you are from yourself or other people. It gives us all a chance to explore ourselves in usually a non-judgmental manner, and in a way that allows us a lot of freedom. So it's an area for a lot of growth. And play, in a general aspect, is really enjoyable. And when we go from playgrounds and, organizing games and whatnot, a lot of experience. Like, I was a 80s, 90s kid, and mainly in LA. And at that time, one of the things for play as a kid was in my neighborhood. You would find the other neighborhood kids that you were friends with. And usually at that time, we'd have bikes. So you'd have bike adventures. So after school, hop on your bike, find your friends, maybe even play like some sports first. I think, like a typical afternoon for me in like elementary school, come home, whatever, do the homework, and then go to my friend's house, probably play, like, maybe watch a little TV or whatever, but then probably play some street football, play some street football with some people, or some basketball, and then we'd hop on our bikes and go on an adventure and just go around the neighborhoods and see what we can get into, like, oh, let's whatever. And you just roam around, and I don't know, you build jumps, or you find jumps, or you see what's going on, or you maybe even go to a different sports field or whatever. You never could tell what adventure you're going to get into. And that was like a really formative part of play, was finding out who's into adventures and how do you handle yourself on an adventure, and do you like an adventure, and who else can you count on, and all those sorts of things that you find out. And when we just say play, people don't necessarily think about all the different aspects of play. There are so many different aspects. I mean, sorry. Obviously, I'm a guy, so I'm coming from a guy perspective. But, on a female side, I'm sure with this kind of definition of play, you're talking like you're putting on personal fashion shows, or you're figuring out, you're having like hair and makeup play days where you're just, messing with looks and figuring out how to like, correlate your style, your look, your fit, for, social interactions. Guys, we don't do as much of that until later. And all the other different types of stuff like that. Not that women, not that little girls don't like to hop on bikes and go on adventures too. They do. But then there are, gender-related things that they naturally fall into on both sides of the, divide on that one. But they're all covered under play. And play being this sense of freedom and security to explore these things, and really impulsively, which I think is, when we look at a lot of what we look back on in childhood, if we look back upon it fondly, and what we like is, it's the sense of freedom, it's the sense of carefreeness in the freedom, and it's also the sense that we're allowed to follow our impulses. And what I've noticed with adults who are happier with their lives is that adults who, during the course of a day, get to act impulsively, at least a little bit, and follow their impulses, no matter how they turn out, they tend to be happier adults than adults who just like, they have it all dialed in and they're just in a routine every day, because eventually the routine becomes meaningless to them, even if it's like a fulfilling routine, paradoxically. And with kids, they get to act impulsively, and it's not, people don't really rein that in on children until they get older, and then they go, oh, well, you have a schedule and this and this and this. But a lot of what we like is the carefree aspect of being able to be impulsive. And I think that's kind of one of the big parts of play in general as a concept, is that you get to be impulsive. You feel something. Like when you go out in elementary school or grade school or whatever you call it, primary, wherever you're from, and you go out to recess, you can make up your mind when you go out what you're going to do. Oh, I'm going to go shoot hoops or play caroms or hang out with my friends or, run around or go in the jungle gym or whatever you want. But you go out and you just feel an impulse. And then you go do it. And you're just excited. You're like, oh, I'm going to go do this thing. And it doesn't really matter what the thing is. What mattered was that you had a strong feeling that you got to follow to a conclusion. And comparing it to the cheetah cubs developing life skills, following these impulses, these intuitions to their completion, and having a data set for yourself where you go, oh, well, I had that impulse and that intuition, and then I followed it and it kind of turned out like this, and it felt a certain way, and then I had this one and it kind of went a certain way and I followed it and it turned out that way. A person can begin the process of calibrating their into the feeling and the emotion of their intuitions and impulses, which is really, really where we're starting to get to the root of, or like where the rubber meets the road of being an individual, having an individual experience. Because there may be no more individual phenomenon than having an impulse or having an intuition. It may be the actual thing that we're calling an individual experience. That may be the thing that leads us into all of our individual experiences, is impulse and intuition. And because play gives us such a secure area to explore ourselves how we see fit in an enjoyable manner, the context being you're going to have an enjoyable time to yourself, and you're going to be free to do it if it's done properly. Then the intuitions and the impulses come in, and then we can satisfy ourselves, or we can learn the process of what it means to satisfy ourselves by using ourselves. Because a lot of life, as we find out, is other people or agendas using us to satisfy their appetites. And play is a time when we can find a way to satisfy ourselves and our appetites. And that really does lead to, once we have our morals and ethics in a proper manner going around, however you see fit to do that as well, when those line up, when our intuitions and impulses line up with the morals and the values that we've determined for ourselves, and we get those lined up and in harmony with our environment, that's a really strong recipe for an enjoyable and fulfilling life. And I really think play is it's the beginning of us developing a process for a healthy and fulfilling life based on our individual needs, desires, and appetites. So, what is play? I guess that's what it is. But I'm sure you have your own thoughts, and leave them in the comments or make your own videos. It's philosophy. It's an open field. So, well, thanks for spending some time here at Philosopher's Corner. I hope you found it helpful, and have fun.